Let's take a walk through unpacking the emotions when you have lost your job. Welcome back to The Walk with me, Munyange. As I shared with you in my first episode, I lost my job, which was my source of livelihood. I didn't know what to do at that time. All manner of emotions overcame me. Fear of the unknown. What will I tell people? What will people say? Where do I start with the job application process in a time where companies are not hiring? Well, I'm no expert, but allow me to share with you 5 emotional stages I went through at this time. Stage 1, shock and denial. I was not entirely unaware of losing my job. I had instances where I was shocked it happened to me. I kept replaying the 2 years. Did I make the right decision to join this company? Maybe if I was still in my former employer, I would still be employed. How could they do this to me? How could they let me go? I brought in so much value. Didn't they see it? I'm good at what I do. Don't they see that? The questioning went on and on and on in my mind. I was in denial. Clients would call me seeking help, and I'd still respond to them and actually tell them, let me follow up for you and get back to you. I'll have someone call you. Let's put it this way. You see, when you're in a relationship and you give it your all, you try to keep it alive, and still the other person ends it. It just doesn't work out. This was my case. I was in denial. I was no longer part of this company. A little bit of me wanted the relevance that came with having a job, being sought after to give solutions. I'd like to mention that at this time, a career coach reached out to me and asked that I allow her to walk me through navigating my life without a job. Well, I had her out, but at the back of my mind, I was thinking, who needs a career coach? What help will she offer me? The help I need right now is a job. What does she mean by navigating life without a job? This is a temporary problem, which at the back of my mind, I thought I'd navigate it one way or another without any form of help. But today, I am grateful to my career coach, for without her, finding myself deciphering all the emotions and feelings would have been tough. And why lie? That I must admit. The second emotion is that I began to be vexed and irritated by the fact that I was out of work. Anger set in. I didn't like where I was, why I was where I was. Nothing made sense. I began to wonder why, of all the years, 2020, a pandemic had to hit the whole wide world. And in the midst of all this, I was the one who got affected. Many thoughts crossed my mind and emotions filled me up, leading only to more tears, more questions, and less answers. And on to my third emotion, which is bargaining. Because I had a career coach. She helped me navigate my life, picking out the wins and identifying the losses, which would then turn around to be opportunities to apply to my work in life. What are some of the things I had to bargain over? To be honest, when you don't have a monthly salary, you start looking at must-haves versus need-to-have. Then the process of elimination began. Bills. I had to pay them. Some, I had to stagger them. Others, completely request for a waiver. And now, as I now cannot afford to pay, reality check hit me. I had to reduce my spend over some things. I never liked this at all. I didn't even see it coming. I was scared. Oh my, I had to stretch money to the last cent. And now, indefinitely. Thankfully, my career coach guided me on where to start. She said, make a list. Against each list, put the amount of money and begin to pay the bills that are necessary and strike the ones that are unnecessary out. And slowly by slowly, the reality of telling my siblings I was out of employment dawned on me. maybe Superwoman ain't so super anymore. Maybe I needed help. And on to the fourth emotional stage, fighting depression. Like many people in our country, depression is not something we talk about openly. We shy away from actually talking about it. In our culture, we think that it's equivalent to kuruka kichwa or going mad or crazy. No one should even talk about it. Experts define depression as severe sorrow, unhappiness, or sadness. Well, I know many can resonate with this in one instance or another, where you think and think and think, weh, nabado, you cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. Remaining positive and trying to fight off those negative emotions is something else. As for me during this time, I turned to the one source I knew, God. I went back to prayer and listening to encouraging sermons and verses and songs that at least in the midst of darkness uplifted me. Maintaining a workout regime, I did jogs around my neighborhood. I would just take a walk to clear my mind or simply get out of the house. I also kept to myself a lot. To be honest, I didn't want to replay to my friends, how did it happen? Ebu explained to us. So why did they? I think you need to take them to court. So I decided, let me stay indoors and think and do what I have to do, assisted by my career coach. One day, maybe one day, I will get up from this nightmare of a dream that doesn't seem to end. The fifth emotional process, 6 weeks into the coaching and having gone through a lot of self-discovery sessions, I could now accept my reality. I am now bila work. So now how do I move on? Okay. My entire family knows. They are now checking up on me in shifts to find out, Mercy, how are you? Mercy, have you eaten? Mercy, are you okay? My friends now all know. They are sending me random encouraging messages and funny clips to keep me engaged. Just like that relationship I mentioned, you have to accept and choose to move on. I accepted and I chose to move on. It took a lot of courage to dream again, to see myself from a vantage point, which was, now I have skills, I know my value, I know what I'm bringing to the table versus what I want to do in the next 15 years as a career. Having to dream again, to see the cup half full and not half empty. Having to look at my networks, now not from a point of what can you do for me, but more from how can we work together to create value and contribute towards growth was sobering. Okay, my bills have to be paid, but hang on. Do I want a job that will suck the life out of me, such that all I do is work, 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 with no time for friends and family? I had to truly dream again, to have the courage to say to myself, well, I won't earn as much as I did in the past, but I am willing to take this amount of money. 1, to pay my bills, and 2, it's something aligned to my skill and passion. And just like that, I began to walk in my journey of acceptance and moving on. Defining what I wanted to do in the next few days and months gave me hope. Looking to the process of starting something afresh, a clean slate, building myself again. This gave me purpose, as it were, and now I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can be down but not out. What do I want you to take out of this? You can be down but not out. You may have lost something that was dear to you, your livelihood, your family, your friend. And yes, it was, and it still is tough. You may not even have found your footing as to how to navigate it. Many emotions of fear, anger, doubt, and worthiness have overcome you. You have no one to help you. You have no one to hear you out. You just want it all to end. Be encouraged that nothing lasts forever. You have to desire to see yourself arise from the bottom. You must have the courage to pick yourself up. Well, pick yourself. Reevaluate your life goals. Where you are is not where you want to be, but guess what? You can still make it to the top. Have the courage to dream again. Your current dream may be a bad one, but with each waking day, you have an opportunity to dream again. Read a book. Pray. Have faith. You will dream again, and your dream is valid. We all have someone looking up to us. We cannot let them down. So arise and take a walk. Though you have detoured, keep walking. Arise and pursue purpose. Arise and pursue greatness. Welcome back to The Walk with me, Munyange. Today's episode we have a guest called Kahiga, who at some point in his career felt alone.
Thanks, Mercy, for having me. My name is Kahiga Ngata.
Welcome to The Walk, Kahiga. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, thanks, Mercy. I started working in 2013, just before I graduated. I was working in a university, but the fortunate or unfortunate thing is I got that job before I graduated. So my pay reflected the same. I was employed as a casual with the promise that I'll be hired as a graduate in like 2 or 3 months once I graduated.
Kahiga, take us through your career journey.
So after uni or after that, I was in the university. I stayed there for 1 year.
So how much did your first job pay you?
So my first paycheck was 432 shillings per day, and that excludes a weekend. After 432 shillings, after the first year, we were given a raise. After that, I didn't stay there for too long. I moved to another organization. It was a pretty huge organization. And how I got that job, interestingly, is the day before the interview, I called my cousin and told them I was going for an interview. And they sent me a link. And those questions are the ones that I was asked during that interview. So that interview, I did really well. After that, I moved to a startup. And from, I think, 2016 to about until 2021.
Your career profession is in which area?
Okay, so I'm principally in IT, specifically in support.
Tell us some of the challenges you have faced while working in IT. Its ups and downs.
It's an interesting journey. The challenge with IT is it keeps growing and you definitely can't catch up with everything that's coming up. But it's been an interesting journey. I think I enjoy working and I plan to keep it that way.
How did the pandemic affect your career?
During that pandemic, at work, things had started getting tense. So I had that feeling that it's just a matter of time. But I for sure knew that retrenchment was coming. So I think around April, May, around there, we were told to go work from home. And I knew anytime from now, retrenchment was coming.
Take us through your retrenchment process and explain to us how you handled the job loss.
I think for me, fortunately or unfortunately, I'd previously been in 2 organizations where there was redundancy and retrenchment. But during those 2 exercises, I wasn't affected. I remember one of my former colleagues telling us, if you're ever retrenched, that month, that salary, please use it for therapy. I didn't know what it meant then. So fast forward, there's this retrenchment going, and I saw it before because there were changes in the organization, unnecessary changes. There was a lot of pressure. So for me, I'd seen it coming. I'd started applying for jobs. I remember one day my manager busted me and it was a lecture. For me, I think I just made peace and I knew it was a matter of when the announcement will come. So fast forward, the call came. I remember it was a 20-30 minute call. The call came. And for me, I remember I was very casual about it. And my manager, I remember he or she thought that I was a joker, that how can I take this job loss that casually. But for me, I'd seen it coming and I didn't see a way forward or a way out of it in the organization I was in. I remember the first 2 months, yes, I was busy doing a few things. But after that, now reality starts to sink in. Every month, there's no money coming in. There's no money coming in. You're just making withdrawals from your account. And I remember when we used to, like, let's say you're hanging out with your friends and you're paying a bill, you'd get low-key upset and you're wondering, you guys know I don't have a job. So for me, it's just money out and it used to like hit you differently. I think there was also a lot of triggers in terms of you call your friend and they say, I can't talk now, I'm in a meeting. That's now when reality starts to like really kick in that for real you don't have a job. Then you apply for jobs and they say you are a good fit, but you are an expensive hire. So there was also that. So you're wondering, do I go back to a salary you're earning many years ago? Are you ready for that change of lifestyle? Personally, I wasn't. I didn't want to downgrade. So there was that. I think there were also a lot of emotions, like who do you like call or who do you reach out? Like if you want money, for example, who can you like openly tell? And they won't ask you questions or they won't judge you. So who could you like honestly and openly reach out to? I think it was a very interesting journey. What I really learned is you really have to be strong mentally. I think it also really helped me to know, growing up you always told be aware of who your friends are, keep your circle close. You don't really understand some things until it happens to you. So for me, I really got to understand who you can reach out to personally, who you can reach out to professionally, and just appreciating the few close friends or appreciating the few close confidants that you could like openly talk to.
What are some of the emotions you went through after the retrenchment?
It really didn't hit me until like August, September. You start calling people, they tell you I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back. Now you can't like keep chilling anymore. You have bills to pay, of course. And there was that feeling that you are alone, Do you call back your former boss and tell them you want to come back? Do you lose your ego? And I think during that time, what I really learned is difficult times help you to make you better. But I think during that time, I've never felt alone like that.
How did you navigate your walk towards getting back on your career path?
What I did is I told close people that I'm looking for something, started applying jobs, got an opportunity through a friend. So there was this farm that had like lots of money and they wanted to make an impact like in Africa. So they were looking for places where they can invest money. I got into that, and one of the projects that we started was this water kiosk. We were in the business of bottling, purifying and selling water.
So what has been your greatest lesson in your work?
The greatest lesson in my career journey is, I think there are a couple, it's not one. First, you must be strong. And by strong, I mean mental fortitude. So that's one, being strong, and being strong is being strong mentally. I think the second thing that I learned was, at the end of the day, you are alone. People will be there, you'll be given handouts, or people will feel oye for you for some time, but they also have their own lives, they have their challenges. So life goes on. Life goes on for them, and life must go on for you. You're not the first person to experience a tragedy. You're not the first person to lose a job or be retrenched. There's that. Life goes on. I think lastly is just be truthful, just be honest with yourself, and just know where to like rank or rate people, because I think they are like there's a famous quote that says, never forget the three different people in your life. So basically, those who helped you in your difficult times, those who left you in your difficult times, and those who put you in difficult times.
And finally, what advice would you give the younger people who are starting out?
My advice to people who are starting out, I'd say is first, know yourself. By knowing yourself, I mean know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and know what you want and know your why. The reason I'm saying that is your personality, or basically who you are, really affects the person you are, the kind of relationship you'll have with people, and your professional life as well. Let me give my personal example. My first job, I was earning about $432 per day, call it less than 10,000. I got that job in February. So in class, or rather the classmates we used to hang out with, I was the one who had a job. So if we used to meet for drinks, I would be told, when unafanya kazi, and understandably so. So I'd remember I'd buy, let's say, a bottle or two, but now you'd remain with like 4,000, for example. So fast forward, I remember 8 months later, a very close friend of mine got a job, and they got an internship and they were earning 30,000. So me from my 8,000, but it's a full-time job, and the intern earning at 30,000, there was that, you have to do some reconciliation. Fast forward 3 months later, they got a job and they earned 60,000. So growing up, I remember I used to be told, start small, blah, 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 but over the years, what I've come to learn is just know yourself, know what you like, and know your money preferences or know your money usage. So my friend who was earning 60,000 is very conservative with money. Myself, if I earn 1,000, I'll spend 950 shillings. So you need to know yourself, or rather understand yourself, so that you're able to set those high ambitious goals. I know we get a lot of advice on spend your money wisely, minimize your expenses and stuff, but I think personally what matters, if you understand yourself, you will know what triggers you and what doesn't trigger you. I think my advice, long story short, to the upcoming guys, know yourself. I think from there you'll be comfortable selling your worth. If you think your worth is $1 million, that's fine, but please be ready to prove your worth or show your value for that.
We have come to the end of The Walk episode 7, where Kahiga felt that he was alone but not alone. He got up and walked through his career journey. See you in the next episode. Welcome back to The Walk with me, Masi Munyange. A Christian author by the name Sunday Adelaja said, "To live intentionally implies that it is not always going to be convenient, but it is what will take you to significance if you do not give up." The world is now adjusted. New normal is now normal, right? You have had to make it work one way or another, be it family, friends, life commitments, you name it. Being intentional means you choose to make decisions and take action on what is important to you. All of us strive to live a life that has meaning. We make decisions on a daily. It's estimated that the average adult makes more than 35,000 decisions per day. This is a combination of decisions that affect us directly, indirectly, or affect others. As I mentioned in my first episode, I had to declare roles in the company that I worked for redundant, and this affected my colleagues. And today, I am joined by one of them to share his work with us and how he became intentional in making a difference. We all have to walk our life's journey with intention. Each one has innate drivers that push us to pursue passion, and we resiliently walk the journey that everything will turn out okay in the end. Overcoming many hurdles as you pursue passion is one of the biggest things in ensuring that you remain relevant in your career and also in life. So cheers to living and being intentional in all that you do. In this episode, I am joined by Clarence Corey, who did it for himself. He changed his attitude by making his job to get a job. Now he is in Dublin working at Google. Every young man's dream, right? Listen to his walk.
Thank you, Masi, for the welcome, and I'm happy to be on your podcast.
Welcome to The Walk. Please tell us your name and what you do.
My name is Clarence Corey, and I am a new business account manager at Google, based in Dublin. My role involves managing our Google Ads customers in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Please give us a brief about your career journey this far.
My career journey has been interesting, I'd say. So I've worked in startups my whole career, starting off at Mondo Ride as a sales intern. I joined an FMCG company selling alcohol door to door. And this was at a point where everyone around me had cars, so they could afford to visit customers all over Nairobi. I was on foot and I used matatus. And so I used to do it literally on foot. So I'd walk to Westlands, to Kikuyu, back to Westlands. I go to town, I go to Kilimani, and then at the end of the day, we were required to sign out. So after all this, you still need to go back to the office and sign out before going home. I also worked at Survey, which was my first software as a service sales job, which later rebranded to Ajua. I joined Fuzu after that, and then Sony System, and I found myself at Google.
How did the pandemic in 2020 affect you?
Yes, I was affected by the pandemic in ways no one could have imagined. So at the beginning of 2020, we were, and I'm sure you're familiar because we're in the same team, we were doing a lot of ambitious things. And that was the quarter that we were supposed to put all of this into practice and launch. But then literally, I believe it was the same day or the same week, we were supposed to launch. And the government declared that everyone should work from home. And what this meant for us is our product was not going to launch. And it also meant the company had to restructure and save money. And my roles was one of those that were affected. And at that time, I was scared. I was filled with so much anxiety because I had just moved out from home. I had rent to pay. I had goals. I was thinking about my career. So I started 2020 really ambitious, and then this happened. So because of all of this, my role became redundant, and before you know it, I was jobless and house hunting.
What resolve did you make to get yourself out of it and to where you are? Walk us through the journey.
Because of pure grit and because of family, I was able to ideally just remember how far I'd come and how far I can still go despite this. And so when everyone was still adjusting, I decided to take advantage of all this restructuring and apply for jobs. So I made it my full-time job to just apply for work, DM people on LinkedIn, pitch myself, and I was lucky enough to get a job after about 2 months.
And how did that process make you feel?
And so how I felt at that time was fear. I felt a lot of fear. I felt a lot of uncertainty. I didn't know what was going to happen. I doubted myself. I even asked myself whether working is even worth it. I started questioning everything about what we believe is important: work, salary, offices, etc. And it was an experience just like everyone else has experienced it. It was a very uncertain time.
Please share with us some of the things you had to look out for during the redundancy process.
Some of the things I had to look out for during the redundancy process was, of course, the dues you're owed. And so despite a company declaring your role redundant, there's still some duties and dues that are owed to you by virtue of being an employee. There's also rights that every individual who is declared redundant or whichever role is declared redundant, there are certain rights that are owed to them. For example, severance pay, which is something I did not know about. The role itself, the role that is declared redundant, cannot be advertised again. And if it is, it's within the law to recall you, or basically the role that was declared redundant can't be re-advertised tomorrow because it means the role was not redundant in the first place. So some of these things you just learn when you're going through the process, but I'd encourage anyone who is going through it, read the law, just go do a quick Google search on the rights of an employee declared redundant, and hold your company and your employers accountable.
So, how did your family and friends react? What did they say to you?
My family and friends during this whole process were extremely supportive. When I was told about this, I remember first person I called was my brother and my father. And it was only because of them that I was able to, rather than wallow in self-pity and blame myself or blame other people, I was able to take control and tell myself, okay, this has happened, it has happened, it's life. You have to move on. You have to plan the next move. Whether that was moving back home, saving the money I would pay on rent to look for a job, or whether that was dedicating the next 2 months to applying for a job. These choices were made because I was able to talk to my family. And this really helped me overcome the whole process, because knowing that I have people and friends out there to support me, it puts everything into perspective. Things are not as bad as they seem they are. And I was able to take this mentality into the job search. So rather than being scared or desperate, I was able to be a lot calmer. And my messages to people on LinkedIn and the jobs I was applying to were a bit more well thought through. So I was able to stand out from the crowd. So this really helped.
What did you do during the time you had no job? And how did you handle your life at that time?
What I did during the time I had no job, and I think I've touched on it before, the biggest thing and the biggest change and way I handled it was, rather than, again, wallowing in self-pity, blaming yourself, I realized that at the end of the day, you still have one life and you still have yourself. So do you want to be that person who gave up, or do you want to be that person who fought through it and emerged successful? And I knew where I wanted to be. And so one of the things I did during that time I had no job, I told myself my job is finding another job. And so I'd wake up every day, make a plan of companies I want to apply to, who are their HR people, what are their emails, what are their phone numbers, and I would email each and every one of these people. Eventually, I'm glad I got one response for one interview. And when I found out that I had the chance to interview them, I said, this is my chance. And I gave it my everything during the interview process. And remember, this is all happening when people are in lockdown. People are still scared, but you don't have time to be scared if you are in the situation that we are in. So I had to just kill that interview and made sure that these people want to hire me. That was the biggest thing. The impact of all of this was I was just able to stand out at a time where people did not even think about applying for jobs. I was the only person, I think, just sending emails to everyone, and I think it caught people's eyes, and it really helped, and I got the job.
How did it affect you, and how did you overcome it?
The resolve I made to get myself out of all this, again, I think I've touched on it, but it was just, don't blame yourself, don't blame anyone, take control of your life and go through it. Wake up every day knowing that despite everything that has happened, you are still in control. You should always do what is in your control. And what was in my control was how many jobs I applied to, how many people I talked to, how many calls I made, my attitude, how I related to my family, and all of this really helped.
So what does it mean to be intentional?
Being intentional is kind of the message for all these things. And to me, it means taking control. Rather than blaming others, rather than looking for an external person to blame for your life, you take control of your own life and your own decisions. For me, it was taking control of my career and ensuring that I still get where I want to be. But this can apply to all areas of life. It could be fitness. Rather than blame people walking around for your lack of running, blame yourself for not being or not wanting to go do it. You have to be intentional about everything you do, because if you're not intentional, you're putting control in other people and you will never move. You will not go anywhere by doing that. So intentionality is easily the most important thing, at least us young people should do. We focus too much on things that don't matter, and we spend our energies on things that do not serve us. And then 10 years, 20 years down the line, when you look back, you start blaming, oh, I had bad friends, oh, this person derailed me. But then at the end of the day, you are not intentional about your own life. So take control when you still have the time, when you're still healthy, when you still have the energy to take your career and life to where you want it to be.
How can you encourage the listeners to be intentional?
I'd encourage everyone listening to this to think it also goes back to the previous question. Just remember that you only have one life. It's yours. It's no one else's. And whatever you do with it, it's your choice. And you should be willing to deal with the consequences of your choices. So if you choose to live a purposeful life and focus on your career and be intentional about it, the results will bear fruit. And when you look back, you'll tell yourself, I did this because of me. Inversely, if you choose to live a life of pleasure, of lack of focus, focusing on things that don't really matter, 10 years down the line, if you look back, own that decision. And if you want to change, remember, you have to change now. Be intentional about it. There's no 50% intentionality or 70% intentionality. You're either doing it or you're not. So that's what I'd encourage the listeners. Take control. Focus on what you want. And if you decide to focus on things that go against what everyone believes in, own it, because it's still your life. But just remember, you still have to own up to consequences. So right now in my career, I recently moved to Dublin, and I'm settling in. into my new role, trying to learn as much as possible, while still enjoying the new location. So that's what my focus is. In life, a big move is never easy. So I'm trying to give myself permission to learn and experience new things while still grow. I'm new at Google, and there's still a lot to learn. But again, back to intentionality. I aim to be intentional in my learning and my progress, and hopefully it bears fruit in the future. So thank you, everyone, and let's connect on LinkedIn. Thank you. Bye.
There you have it, guys. Being intentional is a personal decision which only you can make, as you only have one life to live. It is your choice to define how your career ought to be. So go on and intentionally make it happen. Welcome back to The Walk with me, Mercy Munyange. Recently, while having a conversation with some colleagues, our leader asked us, "Who is your worst boss and why?" Well, this discussion took me down memory lane to over 12 years ago. I was still a junior staff and it was quite clear to me who and why. Well, let me let you in on not quite the who, but the why I classified them as a bad boss. See, in my career, I have had the privilege of reporting to several managers in my quest to grow, and this has exposed me to all sorts of leadership styles, attitudes, and personalities. Whereas I have had to navigate through my work to ensure that without any distraction, I was where I needed to be at any given time as it pertains my career goals. The truth of the matter is there is no definition for a bad boss because it's a feeling really, a state of mind where you worked with certain individuals you either liked or disliked, either their leadership style, communication style, influence they had in your career. So back to my career life. In my heydays, when I was just starting out in my career, I was young, energized, and full of passion. I mean, I had just landed this swanky role while in campus. So yes, I was way ahead of my peers. And plus, I was making money. Exciting, right? I really didn't know much about a good or a bad boss. All I knew was I had a contract with terms of engagement. I followed the rules and the rules given. If I had a question, I would ask and ensure every end month I get paid. Simple. It was often simple until I soon began to experience certain elements which I didn't like regarding my line manager. So what are some of these experiences that I experienced that appertains a bad boss? Well, there was the boss's expectation versus my expectation. It is simple to imagine that when you sit and agree on ways of working, you define KPIs and communication channels, that it was gonna be as simple as that. Well, it was not always that way. In the beginning, as I began my career journey, I got a job while in campus. And so most often I required to have my study timetable align with my work timetable. But it was easy because I needed to report to work at 8 a.m. and leave by 5 p.m. So it was easy until the time came for me to ask for leave. That is when I realized that my boss had expectations and I had expectations. So whereas I had followed all the rules, I communicated on time, I gave the study timetable, I applied for leave, we discussed this with my manager. Come the day of taking leave, it became a tussle. This made me feel like it was unfair. I mean, I had communicated months in advance. They knew that I was a student, but still, their expectation was that I followed and adhered to what they needed me to do, which I often did, but I just needed time off. Well, during that time, I had a bad boss who just could not extend leave to go and do exams. So what did I do? I had to stick it up and exactly 5 p.m. leave work and run to campus to sit for my exams. Luckily, I passed. So yes, sometimes you are faced with such bosses whose expectation and your expectations differ. So in my career journey, I have also experienced because I am the boss kind of boss. As I've worked, I have been bullied. Why? Because I am outspoken. I speak my mind, I ask questions, of course respectfully. But most often than not, you meet leaders who do not appreciate this. And so they become the source of your frustration. And I met such a boss in my career journey. I was harassed because of my boldness and openness in approach to life and to things. Simply because he was the boss and because he could. Well, I quickly learned that life was not a competition and so chose to keep quiet even if I was right and began seeking for other roles internally. In my career journey, I have also met a boss who denied me a promotion. As a passionate and result-driven person, I stand out. And so I made it my role to look for another job internally. And when I interviewed and actually landed an opportunity, come time for the release from the current section I was in, my manager simply denied the move, citing that I was their right-hand person and that if they released me, the job would suffer. So to my shock, I'm like, right-hand person, huh? Well, the long and short of it, I had to endure. I had to sit back and forgo the promotion as I did my role until the right time to get the role arose. So every organization is different. And sometimes you encounter changes within the organization. And these changes bring about change in line managers. So for me, I have encountered that. So out of the fire into more fire. To even engaging and meeting interesting managers who have micromanagement attitudes, frustration, jealousy, maligning, overworking, despite the fact that you have communicated and you have agreed on certain things. And in the end of all this, you encounter poor ratings based on emotion and feeling and not facts and work. Well, these are but some of my experiences of bad bosses. But today, in hindsight, I can say that what was intended for evil is turned around for my good. It taught me what not to do to anyone I managed, as well as brought out the best of me in terms of my performance and excellence at the workplace. So here are some of the tips to you who is facing a bad boss. 1, communication is key. Clarity is important. If you must, document all your conversations. 2, define your roles and responsibilities and the support required and track them. And in the event your role changes, ensure that this is properly documented. 3, if you have to escalate upwards, escalate. Do not let someone be a god unto self. Your help can come from unlikely sources. 4, always ensure you have stellar performance. Do not let the frustration or toxicity hinder you from performing exceptionally. 5, do not be afraid to speak your mind with respect and always be factual. Do not be petty with the he say, who say, I say, but stick to the job. It is not about personality. 6, and finally, stay focused on your career goals. We all walk through such bad managers in life. They are to help us grow and bring out the best in us if only we have a positive attitude. And to you, my young listeners, starting out, be respectful. Honor those in authority, but also learn from your manager's ways of working and personality quickly and see how you can circumnavigate bad experiences at the workplace. Get a mentor with whom you can walk your career journey with. They can help you overcome many hurdles. Welcome back to The Walk with me, Mercy Munyange. With each waking day, as we set out to go to work, we have different ambitions and motivations driven by the fact that you give of yourself and at the end of the month, you receive a salary, a pay. Most often than not, it is exciting to wake up and to go to a place where you can be productive, where you put to work your skills and talent, a place where you're valued. In short, a place where you thrive, a place where you continually learn and grow. As you pursue your career ambitions, there is a feeling that one often seeks to have, which is lots and lots of energy, because you actually not only love what you do, but you also like what you do. You like the organization, you like the culture, you like the people. Research has shown that thriving in the workplace is important because, 1, you are energized and you bring your best self to the office. 2, you are confident and are productive in the office. 3, you are able to respond to the challenges faster and respond with solutions. And number 4, you recover quickly from the demands of work pressures. Indulge me for a moment here. Are you thriving at your current workplace? I hope so. This is where you spend 70% of your day, actually your life at. You invest in physically, emotionally, and even psychologically for days on end, even years in pursuit of purpose. Here are some of the benefits of thriving at the workplace. Number 1, you bring the best version of yourself to work. When you enjoy what you do, you actually look forward to going to work and being impactful. Number 2, right attitude, can do. When you're thriving at work, you are more of a solution giver. You have a can-do attitude, will-do attitude at all times. Number 3, teamwork. When you're thriving at work, you have a team spirit with an all hands on deck. Let us win together kind of vision. Because when one person wins, the whole organization wins. Number 4, nothing but the best. You give of your time, you come in early, you leave late, not because you're being paid extra or your supervisor said so, but because you are self-driven to finish tasks given and give the best at every given time. Number 5, step ahead of the rest. Due to your can-do, will-do attitude, you spend time researching on what new and innovative ways to stay ahead of the curve that the organization can adopt. Number 6, growth. Ultimately, growth is inevitable due to your ability to learn and remain relevant, looking out for opportunities as well as areas of improvement which the organization can latch on. Organizations are urged that in order to retain the employees, they are to ensure that they have a right culture that cultivates its employees to thrive in the workplace. As a people manager or organizational leader, it is important to reflect on some of the ways to keep your team energized, not just driving results at any cost. Here are some of the ways in which you can drive an energized team. One, get to know your team. Every leader or people manager is advised to know their team, to understand their style of working in order to drive efficiency at the workplace. 2, lead by example and promote healthy work habits. People are always watching you as a people manager and most often copying you. It is important as a people manager to self-check and ensure that you are thriving at the workplace with positive energy that you bring and infuse within the team. Number 3, review. Periodic performance review of the team members or employees where you're able to give open and candid feedback with points of improvement as well as review roles and responsibilities and workloads for effective delivery of tasks. Number 4, as a leader, it is important to reflect on your own leadership style. Does your team know where you stand with each of them? Do you give constructive feedback to them? How do you handle conflict within the team? These are but some of the areas as a leader you ought to be aware of as you drive team productivity at the workplace. All All employees at the end of the day, in as much as they love to work hard, also love to play hard. As a people manager over the years, I have learned that in order to ensure that my team remains engaged and thriving, that I honor my promises towards my team. I give them leave. I support the team when and where they are faced with organizational challenges that require unlocking. I give them latitude to work. I trust my team and know that they will deliver on their tasks. Not being under microscopic supervision, but with KPIs which can be tracked against performance. I also have an open door policy. Every person wants to be listened to, give some good advice, or even encourage. And above all, I appreciate the team. Saying thank you goes a long way. A caution to all of us: familiarity breeds contempt. When you work at an organization for long, your morale may drop. This is normal. One thing I have learned and continue to learn and implement in order to ensure that I thrive at my workplace is looking for opportunities for growth. I get involved in projects that will expose me in different skills and talent. I have a learning attitude, self-development by reading and learning new things, new products, or even enrolling back to school. I take leave. Taking a break to self-reflect, reboot, and rejuvenate goes a long way in bringing back new and renewed energy at the workplace. It is all your choice to be excited and energized about where you work or not. I urge you to remain focused and choose to thrive at your workplace.